way that our system works is the popular vote happens on the first Tuesday of the month. The actual election is not decided officially until the electors of the electoral colleges meet in the state capitals in December, cast their votes, and then depending on what that tally is, obviously the electoral college is what determines the winner of both the vice presidential and the presidential races. But that's why there's a lag, and that's why the president's not generally inaugurated until January, because they needed the time to tally the electors across the states. It doesn't have to be that way. There are many other ways that people can vote, and some of the states in the U.S. have already started that, right? The West Coast, Oregon, Washington State have been doing early voting, mail-in voting for many years, and so I think right now the states are definitely doing it their own way. New York, of course, is doing it differently this year than they ever have before. New York's a very diverse state, and so I think the challenge of how do you create rules that'll benefit everybody in a place that you go from the city up, and then upstate, which are two very different places. But I think that's actually the benefit of creating a more flexible voting process, is you can accommodate those differences. 2020 is a rough year, and for many ways, right? Global pandemic, racial injustice, a political campaign that is crazy, for lack of a better word. But if you look back to the 1960s or 1970s, right? And so there's interesting parallels. So when we were approaching the American bicentennial in 1976, and as we approach the 250th that's forthcoming, there are really interesting parallels. So you have a very divisive campaign, you have a very divided Congress, you have racial injustice, you have people very angry, and oftentimes anger and protest lead to change. But change is important, and so as awful and ugly as the 60s into the early 70s were, and as ugly as 2020 is, there were positive movements that came out of those earlier years, and I believe that there will be positive movements that come out of this.